Today we're going to have a little bit of a fall tour, and I'll start off by showing you how I decorated the corner cabinet and my hutch. So see if you can get some inspiration from what we've done. I thought it would be fun to start with this little corner unit here. It's really a fun one to decorate because of the pie shape. It's difficult but fun because it forces you to layer, which is what makes a shelf look really, really interesting. And there are 3 shelves that need to be layered, and the one on top is a little bit higher. So I wanted to pull out some things that I hadn't seen in a little while, and that's going to give me my start. First one is the candy carriage. And this was under the Christmas tree, I think when my grandmother was a little girl, like over 100 years ago. And it's been played with by children, not in my lifetime, but it's in a little bit worse for wear. But I love to put that here, and that hasn't been here for a while. I like to put this mirror behind it. It was just an inexpensive little thrift store mirror that I painted with little checkerboard, kind of inspired by a Mackenzie Childs look, which allows us to see the back side of it, but also I don't want to put things behind it that will distract, so I always put that behind it. So that's our middle shelf. On the bottom shelf, I had this crock that I found at a thrift store, and I had been drying some magnolia leaves, and these are some dried hydrangea leaves from last year, but they still look really nice. I have a box where I very carefully keep them and pick them where they are that blue color, so I thought those would be really pretty in here. And for my top shelf, it's kind of small to start with, but these were my grandmother's figurines. And I think they look very fallish because they're harvesting the grapes or something, I don't know. But I thought that would be a fun place to start. Not much is on the shelf, but some antique books. These are my great-grandfather's poetry books, and I think they're pretty. The colors work really well, but of course, obviously, I have a really, really dead zone in there. Since I've got some blue and white china happening, I thought it'd be fun to bring that around. But again, I still have a lot of empty space there. So you can see that's pretty empty if you're a maximalist. So I was thinking, what else could I add to make this more interesting? The first thing that comes to mind is just adding a little bit of greenery. So I could add a little greenery here. And that helps. The angle that you're at, it looks pretty busy because there's a reflection of the artwork over the piano. But if you look at it on the sides, they're a little boring. So I thought, I've got a little tiny nail. I thought it might be fun to add an interesting little picture. Now this is a little signed lithograph of a street scene, which I thought could be quite interesting. Might sound a little strange, but I thought it looked like the carriage was going down the road. Now, the bottom shelf looks a little boring, so let's see what I'm thinking here. Brass tray gives it a little height, a little depth. Another piece of artwork. This is just something that, a watercolor that I did that was after a watercolor that Aunt Kate did, who was my great-grandmother's sister, I think. Anyway, so put that in. And I think you've got a reflection on that. There's a window that's reflecting on that, but a little bit lighter color, I'm thinking, to brighten it a little bit. That brightens it up a little bit. Now, I'm going to look at the whole thing. And yeah, it looks nice, but particularly the top, I need some more height. It's just not quite interesting enough to me. So I have an idea. This is just some ivy from outside. I'm trying to eliminate the ivy from my yard, so I enjoy picking it out as much as possible. So I just went out and grabbed a little ivy and put it in a bottle with some water. And I won't need to water it. And when the water runs out, I'll just throw the whole thing away. You know, it'll root, and so it'll last quite a long time, but I thought that would be interesting. And that's interesting enough that I'm thinking I'm going to try some more ivy on the other shelves. Okay, some on the bottom shelf. I think I need to fiddle with that a little bit more. Okay. That's looking interesting. I think I'll show you up close what each of the shelves looks like. So here we have the dried hydrangeas and the ivy in here. I think I could use some more ivy in there. Maybe I'll work on that a little bit more. And here's the shelf with the candy carriage. The carriage looks like it's driving through the ivy. That's kind of magical. I like that one. And the top one here. Now, I always change my china cabinets seasonally, and this time of year, I thought it might be fun to use my little Wedgwood plates. These are Wedgwood pattern. This is Countryside, and I got these at a thrift store. Maybe 3 years ago, and I got 4 dinner plates and you know, half a dozen little sauce bread and butter plates and like 16 saucers with only maybe 2 or 3 teacups. And the part that was so fun is that a year or so later I found teacups at a thrift store in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I had bought these here in Arlington, Virginia. So, you know, if you have a pattern that's really popular, you might see it in a lot of different places. Now, as you look, I already have some books in here. I have more books than I have bookcases in this house, and so books have to go everywhere. And so these are just some books that I think are pretty and interesting, older books that are part of my collection. And the 2 books there in the center are things that I picked up at a thrift sale, a Junior League thrift sale. So those things are always in the cabinet. But let's start with some of the dinner plates. The lights were added after the cabinet. On the right-hand side, the second shelf, you can see the wiring, the white wiring. On the left-hand side, you can, above those blue books, you can see a little bit of the wiring. And you really can't see it on the bottom shelf because it's behind those tall books. So I always try to cover up the wiring as the best I can. And so what I'm going to do, if you're down low, if you're a short person, you could see it. If you're a tall person, you couldn't see the wiring. But I'm going to put some brass chargers behind the two sets of plates. This is the only shelf that will hold dinner plates. The others are too short. So this is where my dinner plates go. I only have 2 of those chargers. That's part of the reason we have only 2 there. Now we need something in the middle. I only have 4 plates, plus I don't think a 5th plate would fit, but we need something in the middle. I have a brass urn with a lid that probably came from my grandmother, but it was always in my mother's house, so I'll set that. It works nicely there. Now on the next shelf down, I thought I would come in with my saucers and my little bread and butter plates. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, but I've got a little hole in the middle, so I thought that might be fun, with some magnolia leaves and another one of the dried hydrangeas. Now, my edges could use a little bit of softening up. I'm going to go ahead and add some of my, this is the faux boxwood greenery that I found at a thrift store. That it was a garland, and I cut it into pieces, and I use that all the time. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't stand seeing that white wire on the far right hand side. So I've got a dried magnolia leaf. This is one that I did with the green stem dye, so it is kind of greenish in color, and we'll set him covering up that wire. So if you wonder why there's a random leaf in there, it's to cover up the wire. Looking back at my top shelf, it needs a little bit more there. This is just some clear stemware, and the truth is my cabinet where I have my stemware is so full that I can't smash these last 6 into it, so they get drafted often, or something stemware always ends up in this cabinet just because I don't have enough room for it stored in the china cabinet where I keep it. That whole shelf could use a little bit more, so I'm going to add a little piece of boxwood, the faux boxwood right there by the brass urn, and a little bit of faux eucalyptus on either side, but I still have some open space that could use some layering. And I have these darling little houses that come from England. My mother brought me this one probably in the 80s when on our trip to England, and a few weeks ago I found 2 more. These are a different maker. You can see the date on those is 82, so that's probably when these were very popular for tourist trade. But I found 2 more. I think I paid $5 for the pair. And my little granddaughters love these, so I'm going to put these in the cabinet too. I have a little teeny resin one that's not as fine a quality, that's probably 99 cents somewhere, so it'll make up a little 4th. Those 2 shelves are looking pretty good to me. And now down to the next shelf. I am thinking I'll start with my, this is a heavy, my marble lady. This is actually a carved piece of marble that was a family piece, and I thought I'd use her kind of as a bookend. I think she looks pretty next to the blue books. I'm going to take this as another piece of marble, and I thought I would put him in with another one of the hydrangeas with a magnolia leaf in that center. For my summer arrangement, I had used this watercolor that my sister did, and it's a winter scene, but I loved the colors, and I like it so well in this cabinet, I'm going to use it again. Need a little bit more here. I'm thinking a couple more saucers, and of course we have to have a little greenery, and I always put in my little teacup. Those are just some broken crystals from a geode, and I often give those to children. They'll usually spy them, and then I can send them out the door with something to litter up their house with. Okay, all that's left is the bottom shelf. I have my kitty bookends, so we'll put some kitties in there. You can't see them too well because of the way the cabinet is constructed, but I'll pull it back and show you that towards the end. Now, I have a silver tray, which makes a nice reflective surface, but it needs something pretty weighty to hold it. And I've got my concrete artichoke, and it's very heavy, but the reason I'm using this is as a stop to keep my plate from slipping. That looks good. Now, this is a completely different pattern. This one is Johnson Brothers Coaching Scenes. And this, again, I picked this up at a thrift store, and it has the seal for the Queen and the Queen Mother. And I got this bowl for probably, I don't know, $3.99, $4.99, not very much. And I came home and looked for it. I thought, that's kind of interesting looking. And on replacements.com, I can't remember exactly, but replacement was like approaching $150, maybe $129, $150, something like that. But I like it, and Johnson Brothers is always a really good quality, so I'll put that in the cabinet. And the last thing is a little urn. I like the colors for fall with the orange. And there we go. So just to show you the rest of the little things that are done around the house, around the living room, I'm trying to keep that blue and white theme going here. So a blue and white ginger jar down here, and a little plate. Not a whole lot changed there, but I have brought out a little antique bottle with some dried grass seeds and a little feather. And here's our corner cabinet with the ivy. I'm really liking the ivy here. I think I could do that on a pretty regular basis. Keep cleaning out my yard and put ivy in here. My little table down here, again, trying to keep the blue and white. Little thrifted vase with some dried teasel. This is just a little weed that grows here by the side of the road, but I love the seed heads, so I figure I'm helping the maintenance people to get rid of their weeds, because they will come by after a bit and just completely mow that down. And a little copper dish that I found on either Etsy or eBay, I can't remember which, but I think it's really pretty with kind of a purpley colored dried hydrangea. And down low, some of the blue hydrangeas down here. I don't think I put any magnolia leaves in there. I did give Diana a little seasonal change. I always change her out, and she now has on a blue and white ribbon. So she's carrying out the theme. She usually has a necklace on, but today it's a ribbon. And over the piano, in the spring, I had used the little Renoir print. This is the print on canvas that came from the Louvre, the gift shop at the Louvre. And I just enjoyed it so much here that I thought I would keep it there. And these are a combination of faux florals and dried florals. So you can see the dried magnolia leaves. Those are done in glycerin. and that's what makes them turn that beautiful mahogany color. And there are 3 sprigs of dried grass, and those are from last year, and they last extremely well if you spray them with a little hairspray. And they're in an old coffee pot that was a family piece. I think that might have belonged to my great-great-grandparents based on the initials on it. And these came from, this is the plastic garland that I cut up a little bit that came from Hobby Lobby, and a little fern. And the really pretty things, I love the little berries, the blue berries. And this looks like supposed to be some faux lilacs, and more of the berries. And they only had one of these beautiful, it looks like it ought to be a peony or something. And then not quite sure what these are supposed to be, but they're really pretty and add a lot of architectural interest to it. And the really pretty ones came from Merrifield Garden, which is a nursery. They have a gift shop with their nursery that has really high quality things, and they always put them on sale. So of course I didn't pay full price. They were really marked down, and that's when I like to shop. But I like to have something that picks up the, looks more orangey in the picture, but I like to have something that picks up those, echoes that red. And here is my beloved piece of art that my great-grandmother bought from the artist over 100 years ago. And I like it, interestingly enough, with this Italian vase. I think the colors echo nicely. Some piano music for when somebody's inspired to sit down and play the piano. And this is, of course, one of my, probably the best thrifted find I've ever been able to have. All of my furniture was going into storage, so I gave my beloved piano to my daughter, and I could not repossess it because my son-in-law plays beautifully and all of their family plays, so they deserved a good piano, but I was really missing my good piano. And we went into Habitat for Humanity, found this wonderful Yamaha piano for $100. And when I had the piano tuner, it did have some issues, and I knew it could be fixed. So the piano tuner came and he was like, this is a really unusual piano, not one you normally see, because it was not made for the American market. Where did you find this? And I told him my story of my $100 piano. And he said, well, this would resell, and this was good 10 years ago. And he said, this would retail now for over $3,000. So that's my very best pride and joy, and it is a wonderful piano that I very much love. Now into the other room, I'll show you a few things we've done for the fall in there. Beginning with this table here. And the last video I did, I apologize, I've been really bad about doing my videos lately, taking my summer a little easy. But I brought out this desk lamp, and I really like it here. So this, on the left here, are 2 dried boxwood topiaries that I made, and there's some dried hydrangeas, and there's just a little garland made out of the faux boxwood. And I usually keep some kind of fruit in this basket, but we are leaving town in a couple of days, and I didn't want to buy enough fruit to fill up the bowl, so we'll go through that many tomatoes, but I wouldn't go through a whole basket full of fruit. And a really interesting dried hydrangea that has some purple in it. This is the time of year where if you have some hydrangeas, they very well could have some beautiful colors in it. You can see here some that are more green, some that are more blue, and some that are picking up the dried brown color, which is pretty common. That's where they're going to end up. But now's a good time to get some different ones. And up above the armoire where I keep my china, I brought out the copper chafing dish, which I like, and some blue ribbon, and some dried hydrangeas. So you can see them here. And on the countertop, on the top of the cabinet, and a little bit of ribbon to make sure I have blue, and then there's a little blue vase with some faux lilacs, which echo the faux lilacs found on the tray. And that's the tray that we use all the time. So again, this is a piece that's always in that spot so that we can grab it if we're going to take dinner to my son's house. Nothing has changed here. We are still gardening. So I've got my basket with my gloves and my scissors in there, so I'm ready to head out to the garden. And in my family room, I have pulled off my summer pillow covers, made them a little more fall, and brought out my hand-painted duck plate that came from a thrift store, and brought out my Mackenzie Childs owls that again came from a thrift store. And there is a little bit of the dried boxwood, and there is a piece of Royal Copenhagen that I got at a thrift store for maybe 99 cents. But starting to look a little more fall in here. And it's actually much cooler today, so this week has been a beautiful fall week. I promised I'd give you a little closer look here at the china cabinet. Now, something I did not mention when I was decorating. This is a piece of driftwood, and I liked my ivy so much I added some ivy to my driftwood, and I really like that. And my husband did roll his eyes at me and say, "What are you doing with that in the house?" But I liked it. So you can see each of the shelves with the little houses and a little greenery, and a charger to cover up the white cord. Somebody always asks, I will put in the comments, in the description, what this light is. I just found it on Amazon, and I really liked it, so I'll put that down. Somebody always asks. Again, echoing the magnolias, the dried hydrangeas, and you can see back behind it, that's the white cord. And from out here, you just have a random leaf. And here's our next shelf down. I do enjoy decorating for the seasons, and some people might find that annoying, but my feeling is I need to deep clean everything and dust. When you have a maximalist look, you do have a lot of places for dust to collect. So this is a really good time to take everything off, clean it really well, and then put back what works seasonally. And it just helps me to enjoy the things that I have, especially something like my candy carriage that I love to have out at Christmas time and this time of year, and maybe a figurine that I don't keep out all the time, but things that when you move them, you see them again. I've brought out my winter pillows and put away my summer pillows, and florals that reflect the season. Wonderful, fun thing to do. Thanks so much for joining us here at the Stone Cottage, and we'll see you again next time.